welcome to Warp Zone, a podcast on sci-fi, philosophy, religion, politics, gaming, and anything else taboo. Welcome, I am Ben Banasik.
I'm Tara Smith.
Hello, we're here at the University of Sydney in the Red Rum Room.
Yay!
Again, at the Fisher Library.
Yep, 401C if you want to come say hello.
Yeah, why is it called the Fisher Library?
Oh, don't start that. Stop asking questions we don't have answers to.
I like doing that every episode. I should make that a thing, eh?
What?
I'll ask a question that we have no answer to.
Yeah. And then we can spend 10 minutes of silence Googling it.
Yeah.
You can hear the keys.
Keys. Speaking of keys,
Yes.
this week I got my backer survey for my Keychron keyboard, my mechanical keyboard.
Are you on part of the Reddit? There's a subreddit forum for mechanic keyboards. They're hot at the moment. Yeah.
I'm on a Facebook group, which is
people on Reddit
just
talk about it a lot.
Yeah, it's big. So I'm getting the brown Gatron switches.
Ooh.
Mechanical.
Can you show me a picture?
I will later. It's not going to be great for the listeners. But yeah, I was lying in bed the other morning and discussing with Jodie and Isaiah as to what colour keycaps I'm going to be getting.
Yeah. Were they as thrilled with the conversation as I expected?
Isaiah was excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, he likes it, but Isaiah's excited about everything.
That's true.
You're struggling with your laptop.
I'm just not sure where to put it.
Put it up there.
Whether I need it or not.
Sure.
Probably not.
Oh, yeah, we can get it after we've spoken. So, you want to hear about my terrible week?
Yeah, I feel like you're itching to tell me.
Yeah, so, you know Pokemon's coming out on Thursday?
No, of course I do.
Yeah, okay.
I see you saying posts. I'm on your Instagram, I'm on Facebook.
You know, there was a new Pokemon TCG release last week, which was Cosmic Eclipse, so that's like the trading card game.
You had bought heaps of games, you were prepped, right?
Okay, so Cosmic Eclipse comes out last week, right? Okay. So I pay that supplier, account down to 0, accounting on what's going to happen over the weekend, that should be all fine. Friday happens, I get a letter in the mail saying you've been deducted $884 out of your account because someone has used an unauthorized credit card on the account and we've withdrawn it. So I've traced it back and it was on
So hang on, I don't understand. So they've given you your money back?
No, they've taken the money out of the account.
Oh.
So I go and have a look at the transaction on the 19th of October and the 20th of October. So on the 20th of October this one was for, and it was one single payment of $884 where someone got a Switch and heaps of games and plus controllers and all of this stuff. They've used and stolen a credit card. I'm like, how the fuck does this happen? So they picked up the FPOS terminal at the shop and they've manually keyed in their code in front of the staff members, right? So those staff spoken to. I then check the account. So Jodie and I are talking about this going, shit, okay, now the account's going to be in debit, but it's only $884. Okay, we should be able to deal with that.
I'm so confused. So hang on, they've come in, they've grabbed the FPOS machine and they've put in payment.
Put the code in, by using a stolen credit card.
Oh,
now, the person who has the stolen credit card...
So they went to pay for their things with a stolen credit card.
Okay, now, what happens when you do a stolen credit card?
It should have come up on the machine straight away. Mine comes up with, this card is unauthorized. Like it will spit out a receipt.
No, not if you use the PIN number thing on the back.
Oh, they did it like that rather than like a tap.
Correct.
Oh, okay.
So then the day before, what had happened, there was 3 transactions by the same customer. So whilst Jodie and I are sitting there on the lounge, I get notifications that there is further deductions come out of my account. So it's a total of $2,050 that has been taken out of the business after I paid for all of the Pokemon stock and zeroed off the account and was going to use those funds to actually pay for the Pokemon Switch.
But hang on, so they paid with someone else's. It shouldn't be your problem. It should be the bank's problem.
Well, you think that, but when you make a complaint to the bank then goes and recovers those funds. So if chased up with our insurance, it's not covered under insurance.
So what happens to that money?
It's gone out of the business.
That's it.
$2,000 gone.
Really?
And to make up for that $2,000, because I'm basically a 30% profit margin business, right? So I don't care. Everyone, listeners, you all know that. So about 30% average across the store, which is normal. And out of that, you have to pay for, rents, staffing, and then, stockists. Right. And after that, there's basically very little left. So to recover that $2,000, I have to sell $7,000 worth of stuff. To actually make $2,000 profit, and then I'm even. But there is no possibility to do that. So it's a really bad time of year to happen.
Did you find who the customer is? Do they know it's stolen?
No, it's been reported to the police.
But they're obviously doing it on purpose, right?
Yeah. So, and because it was on the 20th of October, I've got 8 cameras in the store. It records everything, for basically 20 days or something. Or, what is it, 18 days? 19? But anyway, so it was 3 days out. So it deleted that stuff.
Oh, no.
So there's no way to get that. No.
So, you don't know who it was?
No.
But you can see what they purchased, right, when they came in?
Yeah.
Did the staff remember anything?
Yeah.
They know who it is?
No.
Oh. But they remember what they look like?
Yeah. So they've made reports and stuff.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, Saturday, 1200.
Wait,
Sunday,
hang on. So you
800.
said that it records for how long? 20 days?
No,
that's how long.
it was outside of that period. So, yeah.
But how long does it keep its storage, your video camera?
It's basically 2 weeks.
So you took 2 weeks for you to realise that person had stolen?
The bank had notified me on Friday. The bank,
Why did it take them so long?
because it takes a while for the person to make the
Shit.
complaint against the bank, and then the bank to try and recover those funds, and then...
So what's happened is the person... Whose card goes missing and takes them that long to fucking cancel it?
They could have notified that day, but it could have been the bank's
my
process
God.
going, 21 days,
Oh wow, so it
yeah.
just got delayed.
Yeah.
But still, that means that person's had the card walking around for at least 4 days without it being cancelled.
No,
right?
they could have had it for that day. They could have bag snatched that day, used the card straight away.
Right. Shit.
Yeah,
But then they came back the next day. So
using a different card.
Oh, that sneaky bugger.
Yeah.
But you didn't record them on either day.
I don't have those recordings anymore.
Damn.
Yep. So, Pokemon Sword and Shield this week.
Don't tell me the stock didn't come.
I'm going to actually struggle to have it on the shelf.
Why?
Because I have to pay that supplier and
How
that
much?
$2,000.
Do you want to borrow 2,000?
No, I don't want to borrow.
I have 2,000.
Yeah, thanks. But yeah, it's bad. It's real bad. So
But hang on, but the stock's coming though, right?
some
stocks.
stock, not as much stock, and then I'll
Yeah.
have to get other stock released then on Wednesday. So it's pushed back everything because I was going to get an Ozanimal order. That
You need
would've-
the timing always to be quite...
It's bang on, yeah. So I had this plan going into Friday that I'll pay for Ozanimal stock, which is Vanguard. Vanguard will sell on Tuesday. Then there'll be a boost on today's sales, which means then I can get in for the payment for Pokemon today. So
That
gets
sucks that
released
you're
tomorrow.
$2,000 away from disaster.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that. If it was 3
Yeah,
days earlier, I
right.
would have said, okay, Banter, I'll hold off on
Yeah,
paying
okay.
you that $2,000. Now, Banter's not going to say, oh, yeah, we'll give you the $2,000 back because I've paid for stock that they've sent me.
Yeah.
And that stock is going to sit around for 4 weeks.
Shit.
Meanwhile, I need stock for this week.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And it doesn't help because Banter, the Pokemon people that I get cards in for the store, they're not getting enough stock for Christmas or anything. They're just like, sorry,
Right.
Nintendo, Pokemon company not printing enough.
So, that sucks.
Yeah. So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah, trying to work out of that stuff.
Yeah, so I was in the shop on Saturday for part of the day. I was in the shop all day Sunday. I went in the store yesterday as well, and we've dressed the store ready for Christmas with baubles and stuff. And it's really hard because, you know that there's something such, so debilitating for the business, and you just have to put on a happy face and go, this is good. This is great.
How often do people pay, though, using the full digits of their card?
That's
That
disabled
seems-
now. I found out how to disable
Right,
it.
yeah, because that's pretty sus, right?
Yeah.
Normally, the only times I've ever done it at my job is when can't remember their PIN, like
Yeah.
really elderly people.
Or we do it, so the reason why I've got it in the store is not for that reason, so we don't usually do it in store,
Yeah.
but this person knew how to do it, so they've grabbed the machine, and whilst one of the staff members' backs was turned,
Oh, right.
and he comes out, it's gone really quickly and done it.
Right, so they've just gone... there's 4 steps. Isn't there a code for your...
Yeah.
Isn't there a code for your ATM machine?
No, you don't need a code.
Oh, really?
No.
There's one on mine.
No, because these are inbuilt terminals to the actual computer system.
Right, okay.
Once you authorise the sale, it sends a sale out to the
Right,
F-Force.
okay.
Anyway,
That's a schmozzle. What a
Yeah.
pain in the arse.
yeah, it was real shit.
Is there anything... So now they can't do that, but is there anything else you could do differently? Could you make the cameras store stuff for a bit longer?
No, because it's all HD and it's 8 cameras being restored. So
it's
I'm
much data.
at capacity already,
Yeah.
which is normal. I even called the centre and they're like, "Oh shit, lucky you did," because we're 2 days out from deleting that. So they were 2 days out as well, and this is the actual centre. So they've put a hold on the cameras out the front, so maybe there might be some idea for the police.
Wouldn't they have... Isn't there a chance that they'd struck at someone else's business as well?
Yeah, 100%.
But you don't know who?
No.
Because I would have thought it unlikely they would have just...
Yeah, well, they stayed in the centre on the Saturday for 2 hours in between.
Right.
And they've gone around and walked around, so...
Yeah.
It's really bad. It's really, really bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so... Pokemon, we are getting the orders for the customers, so that's good. That's the priority. So no one is left disappointed.
Yeah.
But whether we have stock for the shelf, that's another problem. Whether I personally get a Pokemon Switch as well is another problem as well.
Yeah.
So it personally affects me.
Yeah.
Because I also enjoy Pokemon. Yeah.
I don't like that they've cut so many Pokemon species, so it's sad.
Which Gen 5 Pokemon do you actually care about that has been cut from the game?
Well, they've cut heaps. Like, they haven't got... Like, I like Scyther. I don't think Scyther's in it. Scyther.
He's Gen 3, isn't he? Yeah, he's in.
Are you sure?
Yeah. It's not Gen 5.
No, they've cut some of the early ones too, haven't they?
See, this is a problem.
I don't know.
You just got on the bandwagon going, they cut it down, it's not good. No, okay, so there's no national... Well, there's not going to be a national dex in future, but that's good.
I'm going off the gaming forums that aren't happy about it.
Yeah, they don't know what they're talking about. This is just nerd rage. And then Pokemon will come out and it will be popular. Like, it's one of the most...
But have you seen the reason they said they cut, they're putting them in the graphics, and the graphics are really shit. Like, they zoom in on the character, like move inside.
Yeah. There's reasons for it. And also, some of those Pokemon are quite meta, and they were created to be meta. You know, Pokemon Black 1 and 2, the Pokemon were fucking huge, and you know.
But this will be the least amount of Pokemon in any game. I'm pretty sure. I think it'll be as bad as almost less Pokemon in the first one. No, it is.
No, it's not 150. No way.
As well, maybe it's the second one. It's about the same. Yeah.
No, I know.
I'm going to come up with some evidence later.
It's about 400 odd or something. But we should talk about Pokemon next week, because that's what I would like to do.
Okay.
So we can do an episode on that.
Yeah.
We don't have to specifically do it about the new game, but maybe about, memories and stuff and things. And maybe I can give you some of my data that I got from my participants in the survey, and we can,
discuss it. It sounds riveting.
It'll be good. It'll be amazing.
Okay, cool.
Anyway, so today we're going to spend time in this room together for 8 hours or something.
Not that long.
Recording.
Probably not that long.
I'll lock the door. So.
Uh-oh. Guys, help me. You have to get me up. I'm at 401c. Ben strapped me.
So what have you been doing?
What have I been doing? I'm going to refer to the trusty old calendar, because I honestly can't think more than... Oh, well, the fires have been a bit of a stressor. I've been calling all the people I know in bush areas.
Yeah, I'm sure that's made their life better.
Yeah, my uncle was like, I'm aware of the fires. He was like, why are you calling me, essentially? Yeah. And I was like, just ringing, just seeing how you're going. So. I wanted to make sure if everyone wanted to bring pets over, or if they wanted to do anything. Most people, I think, are fine. I think.
Speaking of worrying about locking people in rooms and stuff, you offer that to a lot of people. You're like, yeah, bring your pets.
Yeah. Bring your pets, bring your trailers, bring your...
You can have a madhouse.
No, well, no one's took me up on the offer. So.
Wonder why.
What? What do you mean? What is that supposed to mean? My house is nice.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah, you can tell Jack that it's a complete house.
Now it's got a door for the toilet.
What else happened? I didn't work yesterday because Doctor had a seminar, so that was good. Had the day off. We've been doing honey. Jarring, putting honey in jars. I didn't bring it. I knew you wouldn't want to schlep at home, so I didn't bother bringing it today. You hate schlepping.
I do hate
schlepping.
So it's one of my least favourite things.
Oh, I went to the Cao Dai Temple opening.
I saw.
With Chris, Zoe, and Ellie. We went to it was in Carramar.
To the Goddess Mother.
Yeah, the Mother Temple. It was fun. It was nice. Yeah. There were some politicians there, like someone named Chris something. He's a Labour MP. And then there was
Chris Hayes.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
And
I know Chris.
He's nice.
Yeah.
Really well-spoken politician.
Yeah. He's really... I called him up once when because I've been a member of Labour Liberal Greens.
Yeah. You're a whore in your way around.
So I called up his office once and I asked him to do something. He's like... And I could hear him yelling from the next room, and he's like... It was... I think Deb is his PA, and he calls out of the next room. He's like, "Who is it?" "Oh, Ben Banasik." "Yeah, okay, no worries, I'll meet with him. All right, no worries." And then I'm like, like, can you tell him, like I said to the PA, can you tell him that I've left the Liberal Party now? And she goes, oh, hang on a second. She calls out, oh, he's left the Liberal Party. He goes, fuck yeah!
That's great.
He's like cheering. That's awesome. Pretty funny.
No, but
he's a really funny guy.
So he gave a speech about, because and like, I doubt this is going to ever, no one's going to listen to it, but the mayor was there as well, the Fairfield mayor, and he was a fucking idiot. Just really, really.
Nick Lalage.
Is that his name? Italian guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think.
Really.
Oh, is he the old man? But yeah,
he's youngish. I think maybe like 40s, 50s. But his talk was just really disingenuous, and he kept talking about religious pluralism and stuff coming out of immigrants and not
Frank Carboni, the new guy. Yeah, we don't. I never.
Yeah.
None of the Labor councillors in Fairfield are very nice. There's a bit of corruption there that's happened in the past.
Yeah, he just gave this big speech about how there was immigrants basically brought religion to Australia and made no mention to Indigenous people. It was really, really bad. It was so bad that Chris Hayes, when he came in, addressed it in his first sentence. I thank the traditional owners of the land.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it was like everyone was like, and then it was funny, we sat with them at the table, and then he's like to Tom talking about bees, he's like, tell me about bees in like 3 minutes. And Tom started talking, just kept interrupting. Tom's like, oh, I like they keep competing with you. Like, you want me to tell you about bees, or you want to just keep talking over me? Like, just a really. And my friend Ellie.
Carboni.
Yeah. And my friend Ellie, she's from ICAC, and he's like, oh, better watch out. And Ellie's like, he started then like mansplaining ICAC to her, and she's like, are you serious? Like, anyway,
this guy, yeah?
Yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah.
Bit of a douchebag. Sorry if you're listening. Mr. Carboni.
Yeah,
Frank
right.
Carboni, you tool. No. That's
going
to be...
we can request a mayor's congratulatory certificate of recognition.
Yay. No, I'm sure, like, he means well, and he's... Anyway, I don't want this to come back and bite me in the ass somehow, but...
I'm sure he doesn't mean well.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he does.
Anyway, just the way he spoke was a bit, I don't know. Anyway, the opening was really nice, though. Because you were there when Chris did his...
Oh, maybe he's not. Maybe he's independent, man.
Oh, interesting. Anyway, you were there at the speech that Chris gave about them building this temple. Did you go to that day?
Yes.
Yeah, so saying that, remember how there was all this problems with car parking and things, and the community was really against it? Yeah. Anyway, so yesterday they had, not opening, they had like a dragon dance outside.
All right.
And they let out crackers. Yeah. And the dragons were like dancing, and all the Cao Dai members were moving over the road. And I could just imagine everyone looking at their roads being like, this is why we didn't want to. That was really funny.
Yeah.
But it was sweet. And then what else did we do?
But it'll settle down in a month's time. It'll just
this was just because it was the opening.
Yeah.
So they were expecting 700 people there, but probably only more like 300 people came.
But it's the first female goddess temple. Like, the amount that's been created in the last 10 years is like on one hand or something in the Southern Hemisphere. There's not many female goddess temples, which are pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, other than that, not much else has happened. Just bottling honey. And nothing's happened since then, really. Just trying to get some things written up.
Cool. So I was going to be disappointed. Tell him that your honey's coming.
You told me you hate schlepping. I said to Tom, should I bring the honey? I'll bring it in for Ben. And Tom's like, oh, he won't want to carry it home. He'll be angry.
Correct. Yeah, I will be angry, but that's okay. I would do it.
I'll bring it for you next Tuesday.
Yeah, okay, all right. I'll tell him. Okay. So, that it?
Yep.
All right. This episode we're going to be talking about Melissa Raphael's The Female Face of God in Auschwitz. We read Chapter 3, which is the Feminist intimations of the holy in Auschwitz. I'm quite desensitized to the topic of Holocaust studies because I have taught it. I teach it regularly, working it into a number of my courses, and I read it quite a lot. However, I do understand that it can be distressing to some people and some listeners. So if you are distressed by anything like that, it is going to talk about some of the grisly and gruesome details of Auschwitz and how that is interpreted by a female thinker, and females that went through the Holocaust and survivors. So yeah, if you are affected by anything like that, then maybe give this episode a miss, or maybe listen with a loved one. And I think it's good to start that conversation anyway. And if you are affected by it, the best way is to talk about it. And there are services out there such as Lifeline, etc., that you can speak to. So, to go into the topic, I found some videos, and this is a video of some young girls singing at Auschwitz-Birkenau very recently, and it's a move done by Hasidic communities and schools to go to Auschwitz and actually sing on those grounds. And yeah, we'll play that now. Feminist Intimations of the Holy in Auschwitz by Melissa Raphael. Melissa Raphael is an academic.
Yes.
A contemporary academic. Yes.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else to say about Melissa Raphael?
No, I tried to do a little bit of Googling. It wasn't a lot on the interwebs about her, but I started to read through a few reviews of the work, but most people are really... like Christian perspectives, seems like they were really trying to work in with her ideas, so she seemed to be quite well regarded by people reviewing it.
Yeah.
I didn't read much negative, not the papers I read.
No. She's in the University of Gloucestershire now. Just had to make sure, double check that she's still there. So she is still there. And she is the professor of Jewish theology there.
And this was a chapter in a book, right?
It is, and her whole book is on the female face of God in Auschwitz. So this is really the meat of the aspect. So she leads up to this aspect, and there's two elements to this chapter, I think, that we can talk about, which is Shekinah, and what that actually means.
Yeah.
And then beyond that is the aspects of women in Auschwitz, and then what that results in. For those that don't know, Auschwitz was one of the major camps as part of the Holocaust that was set up. So the National Socialist Government of Germany, the German Reich, as it was called at the time, set up these camps to get rid of people that they saw as a waste of resources. That started off with being disabled and severely elderly in hospitals, and it quickly turned towards anyone who wasn't matching what was a quote-unquote purity of the race. So they created this aspect of the Aryan race, completely false, because most Aryans actually had some other blood in them.
Of course.
And they were trying to set up a monolithic culture, which was just a single language, single race, and single people all doing exactly the same thing at the same time. And that meant that you had people outside of that, and those people had a view different in the world and a connection to an existing people in Israel. And those are the Jewish people that were actually thrown out of Jerusalem in the first century and spread through Europe. So they gathered those people, particularly from the German area, but then also from the nations that they were taking over, gathered them up, herded them onto cattle trucks, or carts rather, on trains, and shipped them to forced labour camps. And anyone who couldn't do forced labour or anyone that was excess forced labour, because they had enough prisoners at one point to do labour. They were gassed, burnt, or shot, and killed, exterminated. 6 million people.
Yeah.
A lot of people. So, what did you think of Melissa Raphael's... Let's talk about her style of writing.
Yeah, I found it a lot better to read than Levinas last week. Obviously, just because she's contemporary and she's writing as an academic, not writing as a philosopher, purely philosophical.
Yes.
And I thought that her argument was quite easy to follow. I liked all the examples that she gave of so she really obviously engages with the writings and reports of women during the Holocaust, which I thought was really helpful. It really added a layer of realness to something which could have all just been quite theoretical.
Yeah, and then she brings in a philosopher as well, and so she's going in between a couple of survivor stories.
But I like that rather than just sometimes philosophy can seem quite removed. So I like that she's really placing it as like concrete examples.
Yeah, well, she says there's going to be more flicking this week. Everyone loves flicking. So we didn't have any feedback about whether they like the flicking or not. Maybe they dislike it. She calls it... What does she say? It's not a... Mine is not a quantitative theology contingent upon circumstance. It is qualitative, ethical theology concerning with the practical restoration of persons as created images of the divine. So she's actually gone through and says, well, no, this is proof of this. These stories actually prove what I'm saying, and this is actually, I'm reporting on that. Yeah. Rather than going, maybe.
Definitely.
Yeah.
That's probably some of the aspects I didn't understand as well is the real theology aspects. Yeah. Because someone that's not...
you don't have a theology degree, so you're from...
Well, also I don't believe in God. So some of those more like... Because she does talk a lot about God, and it's not a God as in like any... It's not sort of the more... could be anything kind of God, like a Buber, it could be nature, it could be whatever. Yeah. I get the impression this is very much God, as in God in the Hebrew.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It was very theological. So that was a bit harder for me. Well, not necessarily hard for me to read, but hard for me to engage with. Does that make sense? For somebody that doesn't necessarily believe.
And I think that there is this element that is not... Well, it's sort of explained, but not really well explained, about what Shekinah is.
Yeah.
So maybe we can...
Definitely. That's sort of... Like I definitely understood the crux of women being able to getting into touch with God through the little ceremonies that they were doing by cleaning them and recognizing that in their face, and also not degrading themselves as the German soldiers were doing, in the sense that they were basically put in a position to be like filth. They weren't able to clean themselves properly, and so that by trying to clean each other and still touching each other, they stopped themselves believing they're untouchable. Because if you are in a position where you're in dirt and grime and you can't clean yourself, it's easy to suddenly think of yourself as being that. Does that make sense? People being
they were disgusted with each other.
Exactly.
So that's the problem. But can we just go back a couple of steps? So let's talk about Shekinah, and then I think that we can talk about the interaction and how that's possible with the knowledge that we've learned from Levinas, Buber, and then this. So Shekinah is a word that exists in the Hebrew Bible and the Talmud. It means basically spirit that dwells. So God's spirit that dwells. And she refers to God in the feminine throughout the text.
Yeah.
So when I say her, that's what she's actually talking about. So here, in biblical texts, the term Shekinah is merely grammatically feminine and indicates the sense as being in a sacred place. Shekinah comes from the root Shenken, which to be present or dwell, as in the tabernacle, sanctuary, or tent. And the term was often used to denote God's presence in the desert camp or temple. Yep. So the Shekinah there is God's actual presence. Now you can't separate in Judaism, it's not like a tripartite relationship of God through Christianity, where you've got, okay, this is the Holy Spirit's person, this is Jesus' person, this is God the Father's person, and this is the different iterations of those, in spaces. It is all God. So it is a singular God.
But if God is everywhere, then how come it's also how can it be Shekinah? Wouldn't it always be there?
God is everywhere, or it is possible to be everywhere. So how you can realise that, it's difficult because you can't ascertain exactly what God is. There has apophatic. So the only way that you can move towards that is the potentiality of creating a space where God can dwell.
But God's already there.
Yeah, but God will be known to be in that space if there is the active effort of the individuals working together to create this space of saying, okay, this is the space that God dwells. This is where our effort and our knowledge is going to be pointed towards. So
God's always there, but there's only certain times that you can feel his presence.
Presence, yeah. So how God's presence can be felt according to the Hebrew religion and then Judaism that follows thereafter is following the laws of Leviticus, creating the family space, and actually the engagement of each other in that space can actually create God's house there. So every Jewish household then becomes the temple. Every Jewish household is the synagogue. And yes, you have that synagogue worship as well, which is the special place for God's experience, which you're following.
Right, I understand.
Yeah. Now, that can be shared with what she's done here is actually matching this with Levinas theories. And she talks about Buber as well in the shared look of each other.
Because basically she's trying to answer a problem. So she's trying to say, how is it if you take away all the normal sort of religious ceremonies that Jewish people could do and taking the, those spaces away, how were women able to really practice their Jewishness, right? The Judaism faith.
Yeah,
how were they able
because
to manifest it?
Men, it is possible for men to... sneak the Torah in, basically.
Yeah.
Abide by some of the laws.
Yeah. While they're in the camps.
While they're in the camps, yes. But, and that, I've read a lot of Holocaust literature, and that is true. That is a focused effort, because that's exceptional. Like, to be able to have a rabbi or a rebbe for a Hasidic community, which is the leader, so it's like an elevated status of rabbi, to the rebbe. If the rebbe knowingly went into the camps with their community, which happened a lot of the times, had the beard shaven, had the head coverings and the shawls removed, had the prayer shawls actually removed and cut up, but then still to do synagogue practice and prayer services that would normally be taking place in the synagogue. That is exceptional. It's amazing that that could actually be done. Yeah. Underneath the Nazis' nose, like right in the heart of Nazi Germany, Poland, but Nazi German in the Reich. And then for them to continue practicing that, I understand why there's a lot of literature that's focused on that. Women's aspect, though, so women in the Orthodox Jewish world, it is not their place to be inside the synagogue and practice that.
Yes, there's no way they could have snuck a Torah in and started doing their own little ceremonies, right?
No, because that's not what they're called to do.
Yeah, their position is building that temple within the home. But if you don't have the home, how do you do that?
Exactly, yeah. So that's all removed. And then what Raphael is saying here, that there is a systematic process of what the Nazis have done. They've gone through and they've removed the elements of the home purposefully and destroyed the aspects as people were on the trucks. And so Auschwitz, she says, is profane. Auschwitz as a profanization onto death, because profanization means the unchecked patriarchal power made all things available that is profane for its own use, having forcibly removed them from the protected sphere of the holy. It's actually completely broken apart. This is from someone called Pelagia Lewinska, and she says that women were to die in their own filth, to drown in the mud in our own excrement. They wished to abase us, to destroy our human dignity, to efface every vestige of humanity, to fill us with the contempt towards ourselves and our fellows. Such was the purpose and idea behind it all. The Germans made the perfect job of it. They knew we were incapable of looking at each other without disgust.
Yeah. So how do you create any sense of God in these sorts of positions? Yeah. That's what she's sort of wondering,
right? So you have no children.
Yeah.
So your children have been taken away from you.
Yeah.
You're on these trucks or carts, whatever.
Yeah.
You're with other women. You don't have a household.
Yeah.
You have no availability of going to the synagogue and
you
practice.
Can't cook Friday night meals either.
No, there's no Sabbats.
Yeah.
No Shabbats. You have no Rebbe near you at all. So you are there with women, and it's just dirt, grime, and muck that you're
and cleanliness, especially in Judaism, is really important, right?
Absolutely,
because it's making things. You're not meant to have things that are profane, and that's what she's saying is that they're setting a perfect situation where everything is profane.
Yeah,
that's what the
they cut up. She says that they cut up prayer garments and shawls and use them as underwear.
Yeah.
For the people. Like, they purposefully cut those up and purposely got them sewn into underwear so that the prisoners were like... And inside that environment, you're drinking out of vats of soup, basically, which has just got the minimum amounts of grain in it for people to survive. Which means that diarrhea spreads and disease spreads through the camps, and there is defilement constantly happening.
Yeah, and often they had no way to wash themselves. There was no water any water they had, they'd be trying to drink it and looking for thirst, quenching thirst.
That's right. Yeah. So in that experience, you have Rabbi Mendele, the altar of Pabinas, which is a pretty cool title.
Yeah.
Altar of Pabinas. He said in Treblinka, when he comes across the bleeding body of a baby lying on the ground. So this is in the absolute marking, and everyone's looking at this as dirty. That this is holiness. He's holding the child. This is holiness, purer than all purity. A Jewish child. These defiled ones, when they see the Jewish child in the arms of his mother, are immediately filled with the urge to murder. The forces of Tumah, demonic defilement, cannot endure the sight of holiness, the spirit of purity that hovers over the face of the Jewish child.
Yeah.
So he flips it and says, well, no, it's not the Germans that are pure and clean. And this is where Raphael continues and says that it's, even though the German Reich...
It's not a physical cleanliness.
Yeah, the German Reich is all about cleanliness. Big roads, the autobahns, and, the big structures that were created in Germany and Berlin in particular, with these big amphitheatres for people to stand there, the very clean uniform of the SS.
Yeah.
It's all looks very clean on the surface, but actually that's not what it is.
Yeah. But she's not really talking about physical cleanliness. That's important. It was important not just for religious reasons. It's important anyway in those sorts of situations because that's how you get sick in those areas. So there's that aspect. But she's not saying that it's contingent. It's not like she's saying if we're basing it just on cleanliness. Well, you're not saying that. She's obviously not saying the German soldiers were more holy because they're cleaner, and then the Jewish people are not as holy because it's dirty. Obviously, it's a spiritual cleanliness.
That's right. And the cleanliness can come out of anything. And this is the most amazing part, where she says that the cleanliness could come out of not only the potentiality of cleaning, and I think we'll get onto the face in a second. So I just wanted to read. Sorry, I've got so many underlines with this. Grace, resistance.
Is it 69 you're talking about?
78.
78.
Okay, it comes earlier where she's talking about using urine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they clean each other, clean themselves with urine sometimes, which is done. But this in cleaning each other, that here in Belsen, her young daughter, she's talking about someone in the Krakow ghetto previously. So her daughters left in hiding. Is it here? Yeah. Her young daughters left in hiding. She and the other women supported one another emotionally and helped one another to keep filth at bay. They shared food, tried to wash one of each other's hair with Eretz coffee, and used needles improvised with splinters of wood to knit and sew one another garments made from the unravelled threads of their blankets. So they're using grime and dirt. Like Eretz coffee is not something that you clean with. It's crappy mud coffee, and it's not real coffee. It's just garbage, basically. Using that to clean each other. Like in trying to build some sort of preservation of the self. She talks about earlier where the woman that's in the toilet and dies at the toilet. Did you read that?
Yeah, because there was like at some times the filth just got too much for people, and that they would leave this person in the mud. Everyone just turned their eyes from her.
That's
and
right.
She died.
And inside that hall, like she's saying, that's defilement, because they're all individual. They can't move at all. They're not trying to make effort to clean each other, and they're just exhausted and just dying in this grime. That's not how Shekinah happens. So how Shekinah is happening, and how that experience of God is happening, is the effort of looking at each other's face, and this is why I wanted to read this after Levinas, and the aspect of cleaning each other's face actually enables Shekinah. So cleanliness is matched with holiness.
Not to say that those people that couldn't do it or would, like, they didn't have time because they went straight onto, and she makes this point as well, went straight on the trains or were too tired or too, like, it's not to say that they're any less or spiritual or whatever. They might not have had that chance. Or, I think that's a bit unfair, because certain people were just so debilitated that sometimes they can't even wipe fucking stuff off people's faces. You know what I mean? They were just dying. I think it's important to say that, people were doing the best they could in the situation.
Yeah, and everyone did the best they could in the situation that they were in. Like, you can't... I don't think it's fair to try and guess what people would do in that experience.
But I totally think it's amazing that women were finding the time to be able to wipe the grime off each other's face with more grime, not just because it would make their lives easier for a practical reason, because it is better to be clean, but because they were creating a pure space in not just the wiping of the grime, saying that, but the fact that they're willing to touch each other like that,
sharing
and that
the
community is important as well. I thought that was really special, and I understood that's what she was saying. And that she talks about the Hebrew term kippah. So she says, merely to touch another one was to clean her of impurity by a gentle wiping. The Hebrew term kippah is often translated as the verb to atone or expiate, but is more precisely a synonym of maha, to wipe away, or hesir, so to remove. So it's almost like, removing all the bad, bad things that have happened. It's like a gesture.
Yes, it is a gesture, and that shared gesture between each other creates that holy space. And this is where she says is the element of holiness for women in Auschwitz. So where we talk about men, it's easy to get that, because you go, okay, point at Rebbe or Rabbi, reading Torah, people choosing not to eat during the Shabbats, and fasting and those elements. Easy to point to that. A lot more difficult with women, but actually more prevalent almost. Which is quite phenomenal.
And also probably more resourceful, because they have really had nothing. There's not many, without the home, there's not many opportunities for the women to practice.
That's right.
So, and the way they dress and things like that. This was a way of almost creating that space where they would otherwise would be unable to have practiced. And she talks about a few examples where the women were aware that that's what they're doing, but a lot of it was probably it's not like they probably just were naturally wanting to do that as well. It's very just a humanity reason.
Well, that's the thing with Levinas and Buber, and they say that this is a normal thing, that if you share the look between you and the other person, it shakes you an experience, and it actually makes you work. It makes you can make that connection. And she links to Buber and Levinas in that way. So in this experience, these women are doing that.
Yeah.
That they are, and this is proof of what Levinas and Buber are saying. It's almost a practicality element to it.
But I don't think it's uniquely to Jewish women. I think anybody would be able to do this and find like empathy for each other and But
and Levinas and Buber recognise that it is the shared look of humans. It's not just the shared look of between two Jewish people, and that's not their point. Judaism has certain rules and guidelines, and it's a connection of a community together. And Abraham Infeld's definition of the five-legged table of what Judaism is helps in that way. But none of these thinkers are saying, actually, for you to share this experience, you have to be Jewish. That's not the thing. But there is something exceptional with being inside Auschwitz when you have the death of your people surrounding you and you're inside this experience, that you can actually show connection to another human. And that is holy.
What I didn't understand is when she's talking about God profaning herself. Like, so God, by being there, like, there was towards the end when she was talking about, like, God almost physically coming and going.
Well, Schenken is, like, dwelling in the space. Yeah. So the space, so...
I didn't really understand that, like, that God wouldn't normally have been there.
No, because, if you think about it in the temple regard, or being in the synagogue, that is the Schenken God space, where cleanliness has to be an element there for God to be able to dwell. Right, so God must dwell within the household if you are keeping the laws of Torah and Leviticus and these other ways. But God has actually shown herself or himself inside the camps with the sharing of a woman using the dirt and grime off the ground to clean each other's face. And that's where God dwells. So that breaks every Levitical law. Women are not living as per the Leviticus laws. You've got the usage of dirt and grime. Kosher is not being kept. There's no kosher law, like food.
Would you have really staunch Orthodox Jewish people reading this and disagreeing? Like saying this isn't... we're saying if we look at the Leviticus, then it's not. Like, is this... But she's trying to make a case that it is that God is able to be there. But if maybe you were really strict, you'd say, well, God, it's not possible. It's not in the Hebrew
There is
Bible.
some ultra-strict Jewish thinkers that think that the way that you should talk about the Torah is not this way. Right. So it's even the way that it's being spoken about is not the way. But so you need to just read as per how the Torah is and engage with the Torah through the Talmud and the discussion with the rabbis. So that's different, and it's a different way to engage with things. And I've read texts like that, and that's more difficult to get into. But something like this, I don't know. I haven't seen any critiques, really, of Raphael's works. I think she does a lot of qualification early in the chapter, to try and stamp out the assumption that she is tying women to the kitchen sink, and saying that women can only find holiness through being in the household or the home. For the Hasidic community or Orthodoxy. And she's not trying to argue that. She's saying that it's a different type of role.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's just interesting talking about God's own profanity. I found that hard to get my head around it. Like, so she says, in sum, the recursive relation between God and humanity is such that the degradation that befell the Jews also befell God imminent as Shekinah. But God is also too holy to be profound, so that as God overcame God's own profanation, Jewry also bore at least the shadow of the divine face passing over its own. Humanity was redeemed in God's redemption by humanity.
Yeah.
I don't know, I found that a bit hard to understand.
Okay, so let's break it apart.
So God can come in and go, and but God's also everywhere, but God can only be seen at certain times.
Yes. Shekinah dwells, so it's God dwelling in a space.
But God can not be knowable anyway.
That's right. Yeah, so which means... So God can't be knowable and God can't take on any aspects. Therefore, God cannot be defiled. Defiled? Yeah, defiled.
Yeah.
So, because God can't be defiled, God comes, dwells, in that space and that shared experience of the cleaning of the face.
But how can God dwell if God doesn't, like, we don't know anything about God, and God has no real physical aspect, right? Because the apathetic God is unknowable, untouchable.
Right.
How can it have presence?
So you can step towards that element of God and maybe get some sort of understanding of. And it's understood, apophatic theologians talk about how it's the shining of the moon on the surface of the water. So if I look at the shining of the water, and I see the moon's surface, already the moon is removed from me. It's in the sky. I can assume what that celestial body may be,
right?
But it's removed from me.
But does that mean once you leave the temple, you could go do anything you want? Like, once you're out of this Shekinah, you could... Shekinah. God can't see what you're doing?
No, because God may know all and may see and sees all.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's confusing.
Yes. Yeah.
But God isn't present all the time.
God is present all the time, but God is not present
to you.
Like, it's not like the I guess evangelical Christians talk about it all the time. You know, Jesus is with me all the time.
Yeah,
just hanging over my shoulder. Yeah, personal Jesus.
Listening to you when you've lost your keys and help you find it.
No. You have to make effort. Like, there has to be stepping towards to be able to enable you to have a closer connection with allowing God to be there. But this calling upon God whenever you need a mystical friend to help you find keys.
Would the Orthodox Jewish people pray all the time, or only in certain situations?
They may pray all the time, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But to understand, to have an understanding of God and to become closer to God, there needs to be concerted effort. And that has to be a clean household, abiding by the laws, and then at certain moments with, a shared experience of a family around the table.
So it's more about preparing yourself for God.
Yes.
So it's about how you could prepare your body to be ready to be able to maybe receive God in those moments.
Yeah, and for Raphael, she's saying, okay, well, this is all laws for individuals, but really the law is about the community. And the law actually affects the personhoods of people in a shared space. So these women, yes, they've been removed from the family, they've made a family of themselves. And by making the family of themselves, they clean each other's faces, and they use each other.
Yeah, so it's more about the intent, not about the result.
That's right.
And because they're intending and they're trying to prepare each other for it, God is able to come.
Yeah, but it's not even for preparing for God. It's about bringing humanity between each other, which can then result in some of these survivors thinking that this is giving themselves some sort of restoration of humanity or restoration.
And God's able to come into to Auschwitz because of those moments.
That's right.
But normally it would be too profane.
You would think, it'd be way too profane and we shouldn't talk about that, and that's not available there. So this is, it's a destruction of our community no matter what. But this is elevating the actions of those survivors.
Yeah, and there's obviously intricacies of Judaism belief in God that I probably just don't understand.
yeah, and then you have Orthodoxy and the Hasidic Jews, so it's even further. But if you think of it in the apophatic sense, which is the closest intimations of how God is actually thought of in Judaism, through Moshe Maimonides, which I hope to read one day with you.
Yeah. But it's a different kind of God, because I guess in those more kind of Protestant Christians, it's like God, Jesus died for your sins. Jesus has already done that. He'll be there for you. He's got your back. Whereas I understand Jewish God is more like you have to prepare yourself to be kind of ready for God. Yeah, God's not just being there here I am.
That's right.
I'm here for you, bro.
But even with the Christian God, it's only a part of God's existence that we can understand through Jesus.
Yeah.
That's what the Christians believe. Yeah. They still have the mystery element of it.
Yeah.
That's more so with Orthodoxy and some of the Eastern religions, maybe some high Catholic churches, but generally low Catholic churches, Protestant religions and evangelicals, very much on the personal side of Jesus. Jesus is your mate.
Yeah, well, it's like Jesus is there for you, you're not there for Jesus.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I grew up in a split Catholic Orthodox family, and background is Jewish, and I'd only heard prayers, as in set prayers, at the table.
Yeah.
Right? So I'd never heard people personally praying.
Yeah.
Until later, much, much later in my life. Then I was around a family that started, they go, oh yeah, can we say grace? I'm like, yeah, do whatever, it's your house, no worries.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they start having like a chat.
Yeah.
With
I
Jesus
find it really
at the end
weird.
of the table. I'm like, what are you guys doing? And then I figured like they're just making this up as they go because they start like putting my name into things. I'm like, whoa, this is...
Yeah, Jesus, thanks for bringing Ben here.
Yeah.
I find
But
it
yeah,
really
like
weird.
the Catholic and Orthodox, they don't really do that.
Yeah.
They just say these set prayers, and then you have like this inner monologue almost. That's what
Yeah, I find it really hard to believe that Jesus is just like ready. He's like, oh, Ben needs to find his keys. Like, I'm there for you, bro.
Yeah.
Like, there they are, you know. But those kids over there in Africa, like, don't.
Yeah.
Didn't pray hard enough.
Yeah.
I find that whole personal Jesus.
The Orthodoxy and Catholicism sort of get away with that because you've got the saints, which have got the personal element of it.
Yeah.
So you go, you pray,
Where's,
something's
Saint
gone
Anthony.
wrong. Yeah, St. Anthony, please. You know, so that becomes a more personal aspect of it. But it's just different because,
I guess what I find hard is almost like a contradiction. Like, God's unknowable, not there, but also has a presence. I find that hard to understand.
Mm.
But I think that's the same.
Think about it as the moonlight on the surface of the water. So the moon's not there.
Yeah.
The moon, it's up in the sky, but the moon is not there on the water because it's a reflection, But we can still have some element of understanding of the potentialities of what that might be. We can only guess towards it based upon what our own understandings are. But it's very far removed.
But it seems really important, though, as well. That these things are set up for those reflections to come through,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that space needs to be striven?
Striven?
Striven.
I don't know.
Must be striven for.
Striven for.
Striven.
No, I think we could spend all day just discussing God and Judaism. So it's something I find hard to understand.
I would be happy to do that. But yeah, so I think that sums up her stuff. Was there anything that you saw, any passages you thought were
I'm just having a
awesome
look
that you
now.
wanted to... I might read just the part where it's a linking to Levinas right in the beginning, which I think will be useful, because if you're listening to this with Buber, Levinas, and then Raphael, so it's in the second page of the reading, which is page 60. First, Abraham Joshua Herschel insists that the immanent presence of God is dependent on human partnership with God. The presence is not one reality and the sacred deed of another. The sacred is the divine in disguise. Second, Emmanuel Levinas has argued that God is revealed discreetly, only as trace, discernible to the face-to-face interhuman relation. That confrontation with the other is a fundamentally ethical moment, revealing the holiness of the face as a singularity which must not be harmed. Now the face is the traditional metronym for divine presence in Jewish theology, and in its human face, the presentative image of God.
I like that. I like that Buber and Levinas were talked quite early on.
Yeah.
Being brought in. I like this part on Orthodox and feminism. So, nonetheless, read against the grain and without advocating its regressive sexual politics. Orthodox rhetoric can suggest a properly feminist construction of female sacrality within the particular conditions of Auschwitz. Religious feminists who wish to affirm female difference rather than erasing it in the name of equality with the male norm, the historic tendency of Reform Judaism, must take seriously the Orthodox contention that women have, in effect, through their own meticulous, halakhically governed purificatory and separative practices, the priestly power to mediate the presence of God. As such, women's covenant with God is as much a priestly vocation as men's. So I really like that she's staking a claim of ritual women Jewish rituals within the Holocaust and saying that it did happen and that we can't just gloss over and focus on the easier to understand male representations of it. And I think that's really important because they did the best they could with what they could, and it's just as important. It's not so much the result or what they were able to achieve, it's the intention that they were trying to invite, by doing that, inviting God's presence in. And I think that's really important.
Yeah.
Anything else? Because the critique of feminists might be like, well, why are you saying that all Jewish women's stuff is to do with the home? Like, you know what I mean? Like preparing the meal or that can't be, that's not fair, that's women's only. But what she's trying to say is that the home is, I don't know, it's hard to understand. I find it hard to unpack, but...
Well, it's... Creating the space for the community is the women's role in the community.
Yeah.
So women must exist in the community to it's like the glue holding everything together. And that can result in cleaning as well as many other things.
Yeah.
And then cleaning here, she links on page 68, is an act of defilement.
Yeah.
So cleaning becomes resistance. So for some of us, it was something more. The act of will to show ourselves we could defy Auschwitz. It was our part of protest that we said we will not let ourselves be broken.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then she goes on and says merely to touch another was to clean her of impurity by gentle wiping.
Yeah.
Just the touch. Often enough, all that was needed was a gentle stroke, a comforting word, a tiny token of affection.
Yeah.
That's by Lucy Aldersberger.
I also like when they were talking, just bringing it back to the home, of all the meals that they wanted to prepare, and like they were making fabricated meals, and they were inviting women to their home as well. So I think whilst this is important for the connection of community and also bringing, God within Auschwitz, it was important for hope and having hope that they would get out. Don't you think?
Yeah.
And
I think so.
Preparing, like trying to be clean and trying to, think of the meals, and they would invite them, say, well, you have to visit my home when we get out. So I think that's also, was really about bringing hope in as well.
Sharing recipes, I think, is quite an amazing thing. Yeah.
No, I think it was a good text, and it was a nice way to sum up the 2 weeks we've spent reading the other text as well.
Yeah, I think having some sort of practical element sometimes with those philosophies, you're right. It's easier to ascertain, but I think you miss certain things with this if you had not read Levinas and Buber and understood the importance of the element of seeing the face, because this comes up over and over again with this text.
So this is why I like this and Buber's. I felt like they were giving lots of examples, whereas Levinas feels like it just like goes on and on about. Yeah, it feels very theoretical, but I understand why the face stuff is important, because it's basically the crux of her theories.
Yep.
But no, I thought it was good.
Good-o. All right. Well, to close off, we've already spoken about what we're going to do next week, haven't we?
No.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what we're doing next week.
Pokemon.
Oh, yeah, Pokemon. Are we going to review a particular game, or...?
I think we can talk about the whole series.
Yeah.
Maybe talk about our memories of, cartoons and TCG as well. But, yeah, I'd like to hear what your favourite Pokemon is. And, yeah, why it is Charmander.
Wait, what? It's not Charmander. It's your favourite.
That was a joke. Oh. I always say that on our Facebook page. I'm like, tell us what your favourite Pokemon is and why it's Charmander. And you've got these people going, it's not Charmander.
Yeah, like I just did.
Yeah. It's
trap.
quite funny. All right, so to close off, so that'll come next week. We are going to listen to When I Am Silent, which is a song for a girl in Auschwitz. It's by the Lindsay Wilson Concert Choir from the fall of 2014. Enjoy.